Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Leadership, the podcast that cuts through the noise to deliver real-world leadership wisdom from the front lines of business. I'm your host, Billy Duren, CEO, curious learner, and passionate student of people and performance. Whether you're leading a team of 10 or 10,000, this show is your go-to resource for creative insights that drive results and build people. Whether you're already in the CEO chair or you're just beginning your journey, this is a theory, it's the nuts and bolts. Let's go to work. All right, everyone, welcome into the meeting room. Today, we're going to be talking about leadership. This is the Nuts and Bolts of Leadership podcast. I'm the host, Billy Duren, and really excited today. I've been looking forward to having Lynn Bruns with us today. Lynn and I met through some mutual friends through our CEO group, and Lynn is the CEO of ISG, Architect and Engineering Services. Lynn, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Billy. Excited to be here.
Lynn, I've been following you guys for a long time just because we have some mutual friends, and I love reading your bio. I'll just start smiling when I'm reading your bio because I know you. And when you talk about energy and conviction, there's probably your pictures in the dictionary next to what energy, conviction, passion, about growth and strategy. I've actually called you several times. We've talked about things that we're doing at our company and kind of picking your brain, being a great sounding board for me. So we're looking forward to hearing from you today about leadership and your company and all the great things that are going on at ISG. I found it interesting when we were talking before we got started about, where your home office is. You're actually in Wisconsin. I know on your website it has Sioux Falls. So you guys made some decisions strategically about naming your corporate office or your corporate location. There was some strategy around that. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go from there.
As we've grown, whether it's where a leader might be or we have a concentration of talent or opportunities to grow there, we adopted a model that allowed us to accomplish two things: grow around a certain person that might be in that location, as well as support each other across those locations. So our roots are in Mankato, Minnesota. That's where we still have our largest office. I was fortunate to be the first leader outside of Mankato to open our first office, which was in Faribault, Minnesota. And what we learned as the model continued to grow is that you create a barrier if you don't allow somebody to be locate where they may have a personal connection. And it is maybe some forced development for somebody that's growing that office when they have to collaborate across a geography. There's so many, it's a balance. So there's so many benefits of those. We've witnessed the informal collisions that can occur when you're in the same location. So we try to encourage that as well, but also not create that barrier for ourselves where we have to recruit somebody or say they have to move to a certain location to be in a certain role. It allows them to live where it's a good fit for them, and then we can invest resources to grow around them in maybe a new location that helps us accomplish a growth goal. And that model of collaborating then and not letting the geography be a barrier has served us well to expand our footprint to multiple locations. So
I'm interested to hear more about how some of that communication happens because you're spread out. But tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. From where are you located? How many employees? How big is the company? How many states? Well, what does the footprint look like for you guys?
Our current footprint is 7 states, 16 offices, 12 business units, 12 practice groups, 600 employee owners. Those states include Minnesota, where I mentioned our roots are, Wisconsin, where I'm located, Sioux Falls, where our president and CFO are located, chief strategy officer also located there, Iowa. We've expanded down to Arkansas and also North Carolina and Pennsylvania recently with the combination with some other employee owners. So that's our footprint for our 600 employee owners is 7 states.
So we're gonna get into just a minute. I'm gonna talk about some of the challenges because of that, because of the way that you're spread out. But tell us a little bit about your journey, Lynn. So you're an engineer. You've been doing it for a while. You're really good at doing your task. When did it start creeping into your mind that leadership may be in your future? That it wasn't just doing the task. It was about now I'm thinking about how can I lead people and grow further into this organization?
It's Interesting question because reflecting on that, I don't know if it was obvious at the time, but when I think of the first time where leadership may have crept into my future, I go back to when I was 13 years old and had I was flattered by my my grade school principal and pastor who came to my house, and it was for me it was somewhat scary when they said, "Hey, when you're not only your principal wants to come and talk to your parents, but you and your parents, but also your pastor." Usually, that's not a good sign. However, their message was, "Hey, Lynn, we see potential in you, and here's what we would see as a potential path where you could develop it." So there's a theme there, like where maybe it's not even in myself, but others that started to recognize it, whether it was my principal pastor, my mom and my dad, or my wife. And when you reflect on what influence they made, where somebody tells you they see potential in you, is something that we're trying to recreate here, tied to. It's amazing the motivation when you want to prove somebody right.
Lynn, I'm just knocked out over that because as you were saying that, I can just think back on how often and how many times you have probably had since then to say those same words to a young leader before they even saw it. I mean, think about how affirming that was to you. And I mean, you went right back to it, how affirming it was for someone to say, you know what, I see seeds. I mean, maybe they didn't use these words, but I see seeds of greatness in your life and a path forward in this area. But how affirming as leaders, this is the Nuts and Bolts of Leadership podcast, and we like to talk about what leadership looks like. And this is a demonstration of it, how leaders can begin to see with intention, help sowing into young leaders' lives. And I'm certain that you've had that occasion or that opportunity to affirm another leader way before they saw it. Can you think of one that comes to your mind?
You can maybe hear the emotion in my voice when I talk about this, but I have the privilege of kicking off we have a program called our Leadership Acceleration Program here at ISG that I have the privilege of kicking that program off. What we do it in the form of a cohort group. So we have a group of about 20 leaders that we're looking to accelerate here at ISG. And I tell that story because it was impactful for me, but I've also then shared it with, hey, you're in this room because we see potential in you. So whether it's for a one-on-one situation where I've shared it as well, or with that group to say, hey, this is what we're about at ISG. If we can recognize that potential, and then if you can be that leader for somebody else to tell them what maybe their magic strength or skill is and that potential that you're observing, like you said, affirmation of that might put somebody on a path that helps them improve their self-image to achieve something that they never thought possible. So encouraging people to communicate that, because it's a shared gift, or it's a hidden gift if you're not sharing it with that person and if you see it in them.
And actually, you could change the trajectory of their whole family's life. That one little drop of seed that you place in someone's heart, someone's mind, it may change the complete trajectory of their family. You mentioned the accelerator program. When I hear things like this, my curiosity gets spiked. So tell me about the accelerator program. What does that look like?
So it's a program that we think differentiates ISG. We have committed to coaching and developing leaders here that is modeled after an experience I had that I felt was a transformational leadership development program for me that I think you experienced as well. So it's a commitment to 20 people at a time. And the purpose is that they have access to coaching and development, and it's administered by our performance strategist, Dave Williams at ISG, who our leadership team here had the vision for it, but Dave developed that program. And we pull 20 people that have that potential to make a big difference here at ISG together 6 times over the period of like 9 months, where we take 2 days. That usually includes travel. And it is a program that teaches things that you don't learn in any type of technical background tied to architecture or engineering. It's leadership development stuff that helps you build self-awareness, how to lead a team, how to communicate those things effectively, the benefits we've seen at ISG tied to having a common language of how we can talk about things that we might see differently and debate them in a healthy fashion so that we feel as a leadership team here, our responsibility is to create an environment where the best idea wins. And that environment has been amplified by, that leadership acceleration program where we developed the common language. Here's some tactics and tools we've all now shared to be able to have these productive conversation. We are just from looking for more evidence of, hey, is this working? We're currently in our third cohort, so it'll be 60 people that have gone through the program. We're kicking off our fourth one in February of this year, or this coming year in 2026. And leadership is hard to measure. What we are attributing the success to is a lot of the just references and other things that those have gone through it, and the people they lead. So comments coming from others that say, hey, I've noticed this change in so-and-so. That's the evidence we're looking for, that increased number of people willing to follow. It aligns with our statement here, though, at ISG, that we're always halfway there. We feel like we're still behind in trying to develop enough leaders at a pace to grow at the pace we want to grow. So that's a little bit about the program. And again, we're still continuously improving it.
Well, I'll say this, if you're not careful, you're going to get the tag of being a leadership development company posing as an architect and engineering firm. And I actually think that's quite the honor to get, because I think that we're striving for that. Some of that is, and you know this to be true, when you are developing leaders, other leaders find their way and start knocking on your door. How can I become a part of that? You become a more attractive organization. And, and probably this kind of leads into what I was going to ask you next. I've known you guys for years, and there's a noticeable energy and passion in your organization. And if you were on the outside looking in and didn't know you guys, how would you explain that to an outsider? They look at you and go, good night. Look at all the energy in this building. You got a special group of people. How do you pull that off?
We recently about 18 months ago, went through a strategic planning process. And one of the exhibits and how we try to even talk about it as an output of what we're trying to build is energy. Maybe try to think about it as the concept of a flywheel. A flywheel is, there's multiple applications of it, but it's a mechanical tool that has an output. And if that output is, in our business, it's tied to happy clients that are building something, that need the solution tied to architecture and engineering. That the energy that you referenced, though, is, say, we pay attention to what causes friction that might slow down that flywheel and what builds momentum in the flywheel. So in that process, you have two primary components: the talent and people that do the work, and they serve and then continue to build momentum, the clients that also then can add energy by returning it back into the system. Where I mentioned there's things that you have to pay attention to, the things that might cause friction and minimize that. Things that might be causing friction are people that you don't want to work with, clients you don't want to work with, things that are potentially slowing down that flywheel. However, if you pay attention to the things that reinforce and add momentum as well and increase the energy, things like a leadership development program, sharing our profit as an ESOP adds energy back, simple recognition and other things. So if somebody from the outside is looking in and saying, hey, what's creating that energy, being very intentional about what's causing friction and reducing it so that you as a leader can address it and curb it, and getting more of the good stuff. What's adding energy and how can we recognize and do that even more? So primarily just paying attention, and then the flywheel can spin with amazing power and balance if you're paying attention to both of those and addressing it.
Only an engineer could explain it that way, right? It had to have something. It had to be some mechanical explanation. But listen, man, I'm tracking with you. Sometimes the energy is about subtraction, and sometimes it's about addition. Eliminating those things, that theory of constraint, eliminating those things that are slowing us down but adding to those things that are adding value and adding energy. So wonderful. I love that. I love the design of that explanation. That was fantastic. So Lynn, we've talked, you and I have actually talked about this quite a bit, and I know that there are companies out there that have a similar structure, but you guys operate, you and David Dockstead, a great friend of mine, was in a cohort group at the UPenn program. You guys operate in two different functions, CEO and president. And sometimes, those lines are a little blurred between what is this responsibility, what is the other. So I've got a couple of questions around that, but how are you and David navigating that world, and how is that structure keeping you both in your lanes? And does that ever cause any confusion in the organization as to who do I go to with this? Do I go to Lynn or do I go to David?
I'm guessing I don't want to speak for others, but I'm guessing it may cause confusion, but how we try to reduce or eliminate it is being clear on whose responsibility is it, or who, and the way we've divided it is by hopefully based on strengths of if David has strengths associated with operations, that's a clear definition and call it a lane, swim lane, whatever you want to call it, that fits for David. If it's more the way we've tried to identify a CEO role, if it's more tied to sustainability, overall, is in the context of an ESOP as well, wealth building is more CEO responsibility. Profit and how we do things, president's responsibility. We're not naive to the potential lack of clarity. So then it also just, we mentioned if there is a need for probably a clarity on whose responsibility is it, it forces more communication. That's also then healthy because we discuss alignment on whose call is it, so that then there is no ambiguity. And in order to, it still then also just forces healthy conversation to, if it is a gray area, forces good conversation to gain that alignment. And similar to maybe what I mentioned earlier, if our primary goal is creating that environment for the best idea to win, and a conversation about whose call is it, or does it fit under this role, president or CEO, we've had good conversations about, again, tied to strengths, whose role, who can lead it effectively for the best outcome.
It's really interesting because when we've had this conversation before, I remember you saying it almost exactly like that, is that you structure it around where your strengths lie and where your gifts lie. And really what's cool about that for me is I picture it takes ego out of it. It's not about who's got more power. It's about who's got the strength in this area. And that plays to both of you guys' personalities. And I really believe that's a part of that whole energy thing. Your organization is looking at that. Here's Lynn, here's David, here's his strengths, and this is how they bring value to this organization, which to me is another contributor to the energy and the passion. When I was thinking about these questions that I wanted to ask you, talking to an architect and engineer, you literally design things and then you put it on paper, you put a plan out to get it built. So how is that mentality as to what you do in your profession help build a strategy for what you want to see in your organization? It's not a building, it's just a plan, and you've got it on paper, and now we execute. I mean, you guys design and build things. What a great idea for designing and building an organization.
It is. It's people that went to either architecture or engineering school, they probably had a passion for the built environment, but they also maybe were looking for an opportunity to practice problem solving and solution finding. And I see that similarly for me, whether it's a built environment type solution or a business or people related solution, the similarity is not only about having a plan, what to do next, how to do it efficiently, how to make sure everybody, but it's also about communication. Then a plan is nothing more than a tool to communicate how to build a building or how to build a business. It's intentional. I mentioned our strategic plan earlier. We call it our blueprint for growth. And a blueprint, it not only, again, shows what the vision for what you're trying to build, but it helps to align all of the different contributors that are going to be required to make it a success. So applying that principle of developing a blueprint, communicating it, and sharing that vision is very similar to, very transferable from a building to a business. It's just applying those principles of communication. Here's the plan. Here's the vision. What role can I play in helping to achieve and make it a success?
So, David, the whole team, that plan is built. Then how does that come out into the organization and communicated? You guys are spread out all across. I mean, you're in a lot of states, a lot of offices. So when the plan is built, how do you ensure that communication goes out in a concise way? Because, you've been in that circle before where you whisper in one person's ear and it goes around. And by the time it gets to the 20th person, the whole story's changed. So building the plan, communicate, how you guys ensure that consistency in communication? It's
an ongoing effort. And that's where I said earlier, we're halfway there. We still feel like we're halfway there in communicating that plan as well. It's the principles of, we've all heard the statistics that somebody maybe needs to hear, see, or be communicated something 7 times before it effectively sticks. Our methods for doing that are a combination of a number of things and being strategic on how do we internally communicate that. There's all team meetings where we share big vision stuff. There's one-on-one conversations with key influencers that can carry that message to a group they lead. That blueprint for growth that I referenced is organized by, there's a component tied to geography, that somebody is a geographic leader for a certain number of people, that they share the common message. There's a business unit leader, so we have 12 of those, and they have a responsibility to help set goals that are within their area of leadership and influence tied to that business unit. But then they also can communicate it to certain key contributors so that the message is consistent. And then we have practice groups. That's kind of our operations team that would execute the work, that they support those business unit leaders in the overall firm as well. So there's team meetings within those different groups within our framework. And again, I mentioned that flywheel earlier. If we're experiencing friction, or it's usually due to a lack of communication or a lack of clarity on something. So having a plan that we are all aligned on, and maybe being able to then diagnose what group would be the most effective in relieving that friction, or because 2 things might be occurring. It might be healthy friction, that somebody's identified a better way and we need to adapt and change and do it a better way as we grow. Or there's the plan helps us diagnose what's causing that friction. Where do we need to invest the focus and energy to resolve it? And it might be communication, might be other certain changes, but it's a framework that works for us. That it's a work in progress though, on being able to communicate that to every individual, because it's a big task. It is a big task, and I was thinking about as you build that plan, and I've looked at plans in the business I've been in for years, and there are times when there's a door drawn here and it's just not going to fit, and somebody has to call it out. This door is not going to. It's not going to work right here. This drawing is drawn, but this is not going to work. So it's great that you have created an environment that people can come forth, as you said, with that healthy friction that may be a pain point for the organization, and we don't know it. And the atmosphere is a safe place where they can bring that forward. So this is awesome. I've already got a page of nuggets that I've been writing down. We're with Lynn Bruns, and we're on the Nuts and Bolts of Leadership podcast, and we'll be right back.
Threaded Fasteners is a 100% employee-owned company with a mission to create value in and for the people we serve. If you're interested in learning more about our people-centric culture or need a customized fastener solution, send us an email at culture@threadedfasteners.com. That's culture@threadedfasteners.com.
All right, we're with Lynn Bruns, the CEO of ISG. Lynn, I know that we were, in your bio, we talk about supporting people, establishing trust, and then empathizing with clients. One of the questions I have is, when it comes to trust building, what does that look like? How does, we talked about the architectural plan and then getting the engineering plans together, and you guys that's what you do. And then you have this plan, this strategic plan, and you got it built out. But when it comes to those things like building trust, what does that look like at ISG?
Trust is a thing that it's hard to describe tangibly, but you all can feel it. And I shared a little bit about our leadership acceleration program and some of the conversations that we have in that program. We use the analogy of an iceberg. Like, there's things that can help you identify what you might be experiencing subconsciously or emotionally that you can bring to the surface to then build trust or identify, even just having a candid conversation of saying, hey, if you can identify a misalignment of where somebody's behavior doesn't align with what they're saying. So at ISG, I would say just the encouragement to talk about that candidly regarding, hey, this is what I'm observing for behavior. This doesn't seem to align. Therefore, if there is a lack of trust, talk about it. It's not that, and then in a fashion of talking about it so that it's not defensive or it's about behavior. So trying to give an illustration of what it looks like at ISG is in those, especially in a leadership development conversation where you're trying to develop more trust tied to specific examples. And this goes beyond our leadership acceleration program to our overall coaching platform here is let's talk about things on what you observe for that behavior. And then also talk about, hey, here's how the behavior in a situation that I observed, what that behavior was and the impact it has on how it might be eroding trust, so that it creates that awareness for the individual that's receiving that feedback to address it and be enlightened maybe on the awareness of, hey, I didn't even realize that my behavior was causing that, and being call it just humble enough for the leader to also receive, like, you might be diminishing your impact as a leader for somebody to reply back like, hey, I wanted to step up into this role and you were maybe in my way or limiting how I could help you in this situation. So at ISG, encouraging those conversations regarding experienced situations, the behavior you observe and the impact it has helps to build the foundation for that trust. And then in certain situations where there's maybe a pattern or repeat behavior, more pointedly talk about, hey, this is how trust is being eroded. It fosters those good conversations that you need to continue to develop. So you should be encouraging people to seek that feedback and call it the courage to be vulnerable in asking for that feedback so that it's communicated in a productive fashion so that we make progress.
So it's interesting how trust is always tethered somehow to accountability, because without it, one can't actually exist without the other. But even in the emerging leader conversations, so to say to them, listen, we have a trust environment here that's hooked to accountability, and if there's something that I'm saying or something that you're saying that seems off, you can count on me leaning into that. Because I want to build a relationship to whether there's. I don't want you to assume there's something going on here. If you're assuming it, let's talk about it. But I love that you have laid it out that way and how you talk about how trust is built, because sometimes, we give trust, or, there might be those who think that you have to, earn that, but I like to give it forward. I want you to, because I'm kind of an open book. I get in trouble for probably saying too many things too fast. But when you talk about accountability and trust, one can't come, without the other. And it's interesting to me that you guys put so much emphasis on it, because if we are going to be a company that communicates and trust doesn't exist, there is always a potential for, what's he really saying? I hear your words, but what are you really saying? And when we get into those assumptions, I mean, I'm sure you can relate that. When we start assuming what somebody's saying or implying, how dangerous that could be.
It's extremely dangerous and wasteful. Like that's one of if we can eliminate the time that we waste guessing what somebody might, as humans, we're all better listeners than we are mind readers. So encouraging the conversation to get accurate on what somebody's thinking, because we do waste a lot of time guessing. And that, again, the speed of trust is accelerated so much more quickly when you're not defensive if somebody asks you, like, what are you trying to tell me? Because I've had somebody say, I don't understand. What are you, like, that's actually where, yes, it's on me. I need to communicate more clearly and provide more direction. Thank you. Because we also have a saying here that accountability is something you do for someone, not to someone. So hold me accountable for what I'm trying to communicate. And if you don't understand, I'd much rather you ask a question than try and read my mind, because that's a dangerous thing to try and read anybody's mind.
That's exactly right. And some of our language goes like this: I'm not tracking with you. I hear words and I see your mouth moving, but I'm not tracking with you. So let's let's get on the same page. Hey, Lynn, I think we left off one of your locations earlier. I don't want to leave out any of the locations. I think we left one off.
In my mind, I was counting. I know we have 7 states, and I was so eager to kind of rattle them off. We have a great presence in the state of Iowa. So yeah, our locations are Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota, Iowa, Arkansas, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you're swinging down in those southern states. That's a good thing. You're down here a lot closer to us when you're down there in the southern region. I know that, that white stuff that falls up there, we actually got some of that last year, shut down the entire Gulf Coast. We had 7 inches of snow shut us down. So it was a very interesting time. For us. So Lynn, kind of pivoting over to a little bit of the ownership, we're both in a part of employee-owned companies. I know you were instrumental in helping ISG during that transition to employee ownership. What advice would you give to, there may be a leader or owner out there considering employee ownership? How has that been effective and the benefits? And what would you say to that owner that might be listening? Hey, employee ownership may be an option for me.
I'm a believer that your decision quality always improves with the number of options you consider to a point. There's a point of diminishing returns there. And I reflected back on our process to identify what was the best solution for us. And we have identified the option of being acquired. We identified of continuing the model of ownership that we had, where it was kind of closely held about by 10% of people at the company. And then we had some good advice from people we trusted that said, hey, if you've maybe heard a little bit about employee stock ownership plan, but it's something we needed to learn a little bit more about. So I'd say explore options. 2 things I would say about an ESOP is if you currently operate, and it sounds like you do this, Billy, operate with willingness to be transparent about the performance of your business, and you're kind of already operating with broad-based ownership, and you got a good thing that you want to amplify, an ESOP might be a good fit for you. If you're looking for an ownership model that you think is going to solve your culture problems, or it's maybe too closely held and you're not willing to be transparent with everything that you do as a business, maybe it's not the best fit. But as we evaluated it, one was a clear choice for us in amplifying our culture and helping us achieve our growth goals, but also 2, reinforcing that culture I mentioned with ownership and wealth building for our team. That is very rewarding.
So one of my favorite things, Lynn, is with our team is communicating the challenges and celebrating the wins. So, how we share information with our organization. We just recently put in these large bells into all of our facilities, and our team has goals set for the month. And at the end of the month, if their goals are met, they have a gathering and the bell is rung in the building. And I mean, it's a big deal, to who gets chosen or the fact that bell gets rung. How are you communicating wins and challenges at ISG? Because we have created an environment where people want to know. The more information you give, the more information people want. So how are you navigating giving both sides of that story?
Similar to what I said earlier, I feel like the need to do that's never completely satisfied, because we'll start with sharing the wins. It started by just defining the wins. Like, we have a large number of people that are out winning work, and their win is more immediate if they win the project, win the client, and it moves forward. A number of people that are executing the work, and the win is completing a plan set on time, client's happy, internal team is happy. It was a great process to go through. Defining that win is just as important as winning the next project, and celebrating that. We similar to your bell, what we have is a communication tool to all of our offices where we share a message on somebody that maybe did go above and beyond, and you need to recognize their achievements, and we share it on an internal monitor and try to draw attention to it. We call it out in the communication tools we all have, whether it's an all-team meeting and want to highlight some certain things that we should all celebrate, as well as we have a monthly hustle email that shows the playbook of how can we do this again. This is what we're celebrating. Here's how it may have taken 2 years to develop a relationship, earn trust, and when a project, share that win. It also might be celebrating the team that executed a project efficiently that, hey, this is just repeat work. And the team that identifies the win of meeting the deadline and serving their fellow employee owner well by being a great member of the team is how we try to draw attention to the win so that it gives us energy to go do it again. The challenges are communicated in a similar fashion. Maybe it's specifically tied to our growth goals and intentionally framing them as opportunities. Like, hey, here's an opportunity for us to communicate better. Here's an opportunity for us to gain efficiency. People can look at it as a problem if you frame it as an opportunity in the context of we're all employee owners, and if we can develop a solution for this task at hand, we all benefit. So challenges are always a many, as well as we could probably eliminate a lot of our problems if we didn't grow, but we're eager to grow because that's imperative as well for an employee-owned company that we all have expectations that our share value is going to increase, and we all have expectations that our salary is probably going to go up as well at some point. In order to do that, we need to grow. So challenges are going to come with it. How do we minimize the pain caused by those challenges and communicate about it and then celebrate the wins so we have more energy to go do it again?
Yeah, you have a different kind of opportunity if you're not growing. That's a whole nother podcast. So Lynn, I need to know more about this monthly hustle email. Tell me more about that. I can already tell I'm going to be implementing that. I'm a stealer of ideas, right? So people come onto the podcast, I gather all the good ideas and I steal them and I put them into our operation. So tell me about the monthly hustle.
So Andy Brandel, our executive vice president that leads our business units, sends out a note once a month that'll include maybe 3 or 4 examples of here's how a plan came together that we maybe were working toward for the last 2 years, as well as here's where the key players were instrumental in filling their role to get to this end result. So in practice, this is what it might look like. What that monthly hustle looks like at ISG is we try to draw attention to key examples or stories that we want to repeat. We all can psychologically, when we hear a good story, it's more sticky than somebody telling you exactly what to do. So that monthly hustle is an opportunity to provide some of the key talking points within that story that we want our team to go repeat. An example of that might be reinforcing some of the things we want to celebrate, or there was key steps in it. For example, if, say, we recently expanded to a new state and the expansion there is going to require support from our other offices that might have the expertise, talent, team to come down and leverage their experience to help win a project. So, for example, we recently expanded to North Carolina, and the team we have there is very talented and expert in one type of business unit, residential mixed use. However, we have expertise and want to grow in sports and rec. We want to design athletic fields and stadiums and stuff like that. That monthly hustle, what we would do is talk about how an individual in North Carolina had a relationship with somebody that was so they had earned trust, but they didn't have the resume or portfolio to design, say, a stadium or athletic field. We would highlight how they used that relationship, introduced our individuals that have that expertise, and then transferred that portfolio to that geography to help all of our employee owners benefit and grow by, hey, this allowed us to transfer a portfolio of work to a new geography with an existing relationship. It highlights our employee owners doing the right thing. It highlights our leadership team executing a plan of this is what we had as a strategy, so to grow and expand that resume. And it highlights how we can be successful, and the team that just joined us, an acquisition, is doing the right thing as well by they made the right choice by pooling their resources with ISG for that exact goal to diversify so that they could do more work in that geography than just residential mixed use. So trying to tell that in a monthly email is very tough, but that hustle hopefully triggers somebody asking a few more questions like, hey, tell me more about this. I want to do that too, is also the goal.
And you can make the argument, affirming the people trying to get on that hustle email, they're hustling, they're doing their thing. To get called out on it, I would imagine is pretty special to get called out in the monthly hustle. No question about it. So I'm going to put a challenge out to our team. So we have a lot of people at our company and your your company will be listening to this podcast. I'm going to lay down the challenge. I want someone on our team to come up with an idea around this hustle email. So I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to see who comes forward with it now that they've heard it on the podcast. So Lynn, looking forward, kind of closing up and coming to the end of the interview here, looking forward, what excites you about the future of your company, and what are you doing to help? Part of the CEO role is to future proof, is to make sure you're going to hand this off to the capable hand. So what are you excited about for ISG, and what are you doing to help future proof the organization?
The commitment we made to leadership development is exciting, because that's what we viewed as the biggest potential limitation or barrier to our growth. Is when we made that commitment, we were about 500 people, and we think there's a ratio of influence that one leader can maybe efficiently influence 5 to 10 people. So at that time, if you need 5 to 10 people leading 500 people, there's 50 leaders. Well, that blueprint for growth I mentioned says that we want to be 1,000 people by 2030. So in 2025, we're about 600 people now. It took us 50 years to develop 50 leaders, and we want to develop 50 more in 5 if we're going to achieve our goals. So investing in that program and to see the benefits of it are very exciting. Still need to accomplish the goals we set out, but the other things that give me excitement and enthusiasm are our team's never been stronger than it is today. The portfolio of the work we have to demonstrate that we can earn a client's trust has never been stronger. There's strength and diversity, like I said, from what we are as a business, and all kind of united by the shared future of employee ownership. Gives somebody like me a lot of confidence as well as satisfaction in a leadership role. It also then just allows you to practice the things that get me excited hey, we've got all these resources, expectations, and assets. It's also a daunting task, and to say that if we don't achieve those goals, I feel it's the primary reason we may, if we're reflecting on 2030 and we haven't achieved our goals, my biggest fear is if we're reflecting why we haven't done it is we haven't led it. So that's the responsibility of leadership. So it gives me excitement to be the leader of this group that has that potential.
Well, I'll say this, Lynn, I know that we're going to make this podcast, when it comes out and it's played, your team will listen. And I don't know of a better thing than your team can hear from their leader is that our team is as strong as it's ever been. I mean, that's affirming to the team. It's affirming to your leaders. It's affirming to the emerging leaders, or even somebody potentially listening that might say, good night, how do I get in touch with those guys? I want to be a part of a team that's winning, that's exciting about growth, that's excited about our growth path, that has all of this energy that I've been hearing about. So well done, my friend. And I love what you do, and I love everything about you guys and your company. Have spent time with several of your leaders, and it's really something special you guys are building all across the country. And I know that 2030, 1,000 might be short. That might be too small of a goal. I think you may blow past that in the next couple of years. But Lynn, as we the last question, and we'd like to ask everyone this question that comes on the podcast. If we had an emerging leader here with us in the meeting room today, and they were saying, Lynn, how do I get started on my leadership journey? What would be your advice to the young leader that may be listening, that's in your company, or it might be one of our leaders that are listening? What advice would you give to that young leader that said, hey, I want to get started. What can I do today? It's probably similar advice I give to whether it's my kids or anybody at this company that's emerging leader, or again, myself, is that it's just you become probably a culmination of the number of people you surround yourself with. Just surround yourself with people that you feel make you better, and ask them good questions. Asking them challenging questions about, hey, where the tough ones that you can't reflect on your own. Like, hey, how do you see that what would make me a better leader? What would make me a better person to be around? And don't stop asking that question, and continue to surround yourself with people that make you better. It's interesting that I just recently was listening to a young leader who has grown into a very dynamic leader, and hearing his story was that he sought out, young in his career, he sought out mentors. He wanted to be an expert in this area, and he wanted to know more about this area and this area and this area. And he invited those mentors into his life. It wasn't just one. It was a bunch of them. I mean, he was spread out across the different platforms. And it's interesting when we start thinking about how I want to develop my career, because, man, I think back on my 20-year-old self. I mean, I didn't have that drive. I didn't have any of those things. But people started coming into my life, and they started affirming and seeing things, and just like you were sharing with earlier. So not only for the young leader, we want to encourage them to be asking that question, but also to the established leaders, those ones that are leading their companies now in leadership roles. As Lynn has encouraged us today to start verbalizing the recognition to those young leaders. I'm seeing this in you, and I'm starting to see things that you may be able to do at this company or whatever that means in your career. But I appreciate you sharing that. I love the passion that you guys have at ISG, and I'm so appreciative of you spending a little time with us on the podcast today. So, Lynn, thank you for your time, and I guess we will see each other at some employee ownership event coming soon. But I wanted to give you the last word on what kind of, maybe if there was a leadership item that we missed, just wanted to throw it back at you.
It was a great, again, privilege really to chat with you. Nothing that I feel like I've missed, but there was, as a leader, and I think what's unique maybe, and one thing I was going to bring up, and it's a quote that stuck with me yesterday, so I have a recency bias, but some of the biggest challenges I think we're facing today maybe are tied to technology and how we leverage it. However, I think where a leader still provides a competitive advantage is that I heard a quote that said, I have way more concern about the decline of thinking people than I do about the rise of thinking machines. And the competitive advantage of those that can solve the leadership problem and focus on leadership development are going to develop the skills for critical thought that will, again, that's right. That concern of the decline of thinking people are going to overcome the rise of thinking machines is still focused on that.
Well, it was perfect to end that, because we actually have been asking the AI question almost with, and I just failed to mention that today to you. But I mean, that is a growing concern. The professional, the area that you're in, I'm sure that is a topic of discussion regularly. I know that every conference we go to, it's part of it. But I appreciate that. More concerned about the decline of thinking people than we are about the rise of thinking machines. I mean, that sort of sums up where we can't give into it. We can see it as a tool, but we can't give into it as total reliability that would take the place of. I just shared this with my wife recently. We were just talking about this weekend. Artificial intelligence, if we're not careful, becomes artificial relationships and artificial everything. And we can't allow those things to happen. We've got to come back to these communications, the thinkers. So I love the way that you framed that up.
Thank you, Billy. Again, pleasure to be on the podcast.
All right, Lynn, we will catch up with you soon. And I enjoyed our time together. And I can't thank you enough for being part of our podcast today.
Thank you.
All right, what a great interview with Lynn Bruns. I think Lynn is one of the dynamic leaders, particularly in the employee ownership space. But, I mean, he just brings it. Lynn is going to be successful wherever he goes, but he is built for leading the ISG team. As we spoke about, the president of that company, David Dockstead, and our great friends. David's part of the CEO peer group that I'm in. So I've known Lynn, got to know Lynn through David, and just love that group and how they are creating the employee ownership environment there, the leadership development programs, the accelerator program. We're going to talk more about the monthly hustle, I can tell you that. Looking at his problems as opportunities, just incredible opportunity to visit with a dynamic leader, Lynn Bruns. So we are already looking forward to our next episode, but until we meet again, tighten up.
Thank you for tuning in to the Nuts and Bolts of Leadership podcast, brought to you by the proud employee owners of Threaded Fasteners. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe to, rate, and review the Nuts and Bolts of Leadership wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Do you have a leadership story to tell or a question to ask? We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@threadedfasteners.com. That's podcast@threadedfasteners.com. This show is made possible by our family at Threaded Fasteners, Inc., where our mission is to create value in and for the people we serve. Interested in learning more about TFI and how we create value in our team, in our community, and in our customers? Visit us at threadedfasteners.com. Thanks again for listening. This show is edited and produced by Johnny Glenn and our friends at Deep Fried Studios.